Let me set the scene for you. Picture me, sitting on my couch with a glass of wine in one hand, a reality show blaring in the background, and my phone lighting up with a text from Anna. Anna, my friend who somehow always makes life interesting. And by interesting I mean slightly terrifying. The text read, "Hey, there's this party tomorrow. You have to come. Trust me, it's not like anything you've been to before." That should have been my first red flag, right? But no, I replied with, "What kind of party?" Her response, nonchalant, "It's fun. A little different. Just trust me. You'll love it." Famous last words. The next day, Anna picked me up, and I'll admit I was curious. She'd been tight-lipped about the details, only giving me cryptic hints like, "Wear something you feel amazing in, and don't worry, it's super chill." Figured why not? Life was getting a little too predictable lately, and if anyone could shake things up, it was Anna. We pulled up to this sleek house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing about it screamed party, let alone whatever this different vibe Anna had hinted at. The windows were dark, the lawn immaculate. If anything, it looked like the set of a home renovation show. Inside, though, whole different story. The atmosphere hit me the moment we stepped through the door. It wasn't the loud, chaotic scene I'd expected. Instead, it was intimate. Dim lights, soft music, the clink of glasses. People were dressed to impress. Confident, elegant, and let's be real, slightly intimidating. I clung to Anna's arm like a lifeline, whispering, "This is different." She just laughed. "Relax. You'll have fun." That's when I noticed the men. Oh, they noticed me too. They weren't just attractive. They were magnetic, exuding this quiet confidence that made the air around them buzz. One of them caught my eye. A tall guy with a smile that could melt glaciers. He raised his glass in a silent toast, and I felt a flush creep up my neck. "See? Told you it'd be fun," Anna whispered, nudging me toward the bar. I grabbed a drink and took a steadying sip, trying to play it cool while internally screaming, "What have I gotten myself into?" For a while it was exciting, even thrilling. I chatted, laughed, and felt like I'd stepped into a movie where every glance and word carried a secret. But then, as the night wore on, that thrill started to fade. Something about the way the men circled felt predatory. The energy in the room shifted from flirtatious to overwhelming. And then it happened. A sudden sharp pain in my stomach stole the breath from my lungs. I doubled over, clutching at my side, trying to figure out what was happening. The world spun, the room blurred. I couldn't even call out for Anna. The pain was that intense. All I could think was, this isn't right. I need to get out. The next thing I remember was waking up in a hospital bed, a nurse gently explaining that I'd suffered a minor injury, likely from some kind of pressure or impact. Anna was sitting by my side, her face pale with worry. "Why didn't you tell me you weren't feeling well?" she asked, squeezing my hand. I wanted to laugh. Feeling well. That was the understatement of the century. But I couldn't blame her. If anything, I was mad at myself, for ignoring my gut, for brushing off the red flags. In the weeks that followed, as I recovered at home, I replayed the night over and over in my mind. The tension, the allure, the pain. It was a whirlwind of emotions that left me questioning everything. Anna stayed by my side, supporting me through the haze of confusion and guilt. And as the days passed, one thing became clear. Some boundaries aren't meant to be crossed. The 2 weeks of recovery went by in a blur of pain meds, mindless TV shows, and Anna's constant borderline annoying check-ins. She was always dropping by with soup, snacks, or just her endless supply of guilt. "I'm so sorry, I swear I didn't think it would go that way," she said for the 100th time, plopping down on my couch like she owned it. Her apology was genuine, but her curiosity was even stronger. I could see it in the way her eyes darted around as she said, "But like, what actually happened?" I sighed, leaning back against the cushions. "Anna, I don't know. One minute, I'm feeling out of place but intrigued, and the next, I'm in so much pain I can't breathe. The doctor said it might have been some kind of muscle trauma. But why? How?" Anna tilted her head, her lips pursed in thought. "I mean, it could have just been bad luck. Maybe you moved weird, or someone accidentally bumped into you too hard. Her reasoning made sense, but it didn't sit right with me. I wasn't clumsy. And no one had been close enough to me during those moments to accidentally cause something like that. Or so I thought. There was this nagging voice in the back of my mind, whispering that something else had happened, something I couldn't quite piece together. By the third week I couldn't take it anymore. The questions had festered long enough, and I knew I wouldn't find peace unless I got some answers. So I called Anna. "We need to figure out what happened," I said bluntly. Anna hesitated. "You're sure? I mean, do you really want to dig into it? What if it's something you'd rather not know?" "That's the thing, Anna, I don't know. And it's driving me insane." So we made a plan. Anna had been in touch with a few people from the party, and as it turned out, there was another event coming up that weekend. Same host, same crowd. I had no intention of joining the festivities this time, but I wanted to talk to the people who were there that night. Maybe someone saw something I didn't. "I'll come with you," Anna offered, her tone unusually serious. "But we're sticking together this time. No wandering off." I didn't argue. The night of the party, we arrived at the same sleek house in that quiet, too-perfect neighborhood. This time, the sight of it sent a shiver down my spine. The memory of that night, the sharpness of the pain, felt too close, too real. But I took a deep breath and followed Anna inside. The vibe was eerily similar to before. The dim lights, the low hum of conversation, the clinking glasses. It was like walking into a scene from a dream or a nightmare. My stomach churned as I scanned the room for familiar faces, my nerves kicking into overdrive. Then I saw him, the tall guy with the glacier-melting smile. He was leaning against the bar, casually chatting with a group of people like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't been carted off to the hospital after our last encounter. I felt a surge of anger bubble up. Did he know something? Did he do something? Anna noticed my stare. "Isn't that?" "Yeah," I said through gritted teeth. "Let's talk to him." She followed me as I marched across the room, my heart pounding. The guy, let's call him Lucas, looked up as we approached, his face lighting up with recognition. "Well, look who it is," he said, flashing that same disarming smile. "I didn't think I'd see you again after last time." I crossed my arms, glaring at him. "Funny. Neither did I." Lucas tilted his head, his smile faltering slightly. "You seem upset. What's going on?" "What's going on?" I repeated, my voice sharp. "I ended up in the hospital after that party. Do you have any idea why?" His expression shifted to one of genuine concern. Or at least, it seemed genuine. Hospital. Had no idea. What happened? I searched his face for any sign of deceit, but he seemed confused, and maybe a little worried. Still, I wasn't convinced. "Something happened that night," I said, my tone firm. "Something I can't explain. I need answers." Lucas took a slow sip of his drink, his eyes scanning the room as if trying to recall the events. "I remember you seemed a little off toward the end of the night," he said finally. "But I thought you just had too much to drink. If something else happened, I didn't see it." His words sounded plausible, but they didn't satisfy the gnawing feeling in my gut. Before I could press him further, Anna stepped in. "Who was hosting that night?" she asked. "Maybe they saw something." Lucas nodded. "That'd be Marcus. He's around here somewhere. I can introduce you." Marcus turned out to be as enigmatic as the party itself. Tall, well-dressed, with an air of authority that made it clear he was used to being in charge. When I explained what had happened, his brow furrowed in what looked like genuine confusion. "That's concerning," he said, his voice calm but firm. "We do everything we can to ensure these events are safe and comfortable for everyone. If something went wrong, I'd like to get to the bottom of it." His words were reassuring, but they didn't get me any closer to the truth. Still, Marcus promised to follow up with the attendees and reach out to me if he found anything. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As Anna and I left the party that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Something about Lucas, about Marcus, about the entire night felt just out of reach, like a word on the tip of my tongue. But one thing was certain. I wasn't letting this go. If you've ever tried to let something go but felt it clawing at your brain like an itch you couldn't scratch, you'll understand how I felt in the days after that second party. I'd walked away with more questions than answers, but I was determined to make sense of it all. Anna, ever the optimist, tried to keep things light. Maybe it really was just a freak accident. You overdid it, and your body had enough. I didn't have the heart to tell her that wasn't it. Deep down, I knew something more had happened. The way Lucas had looked at me, the calm concern in Marcus's voice. It all felt rehearsed, like they'd dealt with situations like mine before. That thought alone was enough to make my skin crawl. By midweek, my frustration reached a boiling point. I couldn't just sit around waiting for Marcus to follow up. I needed to dig deeper. So, I did what anyone in my position would do. I turned to social media. It didn't take long to find the usual suspects. The glamorous selfies, the vague captions about exciting nights and unforgettable experiences. They were all there, scattered across curated profiles that hinted at lives far more interesting than mine. But buried in the comments were nuggets of real conversation. A mention of Marcus here, a joke about Lucas there. Slowly, I began piecing together connections. One comment stood out, though. It was on a photo from another party. A different venue, same vibe. Someone had written, "Another wild night. Hope it wasn't as intense as last month's." Heard about the fallout from that one. Fallout. My heart raced as I clicked through to the commenter's profile. Their posts were private, but their bio listed an email address for event inquiries. I hesitated for a moment before drafting a message. "Hi, I'm reaching out because I attended an event recently that I believe you're familiar with. I had an unusual experience and would love to chat. Any insight you can share would mean a lot. Thanks." I hit send and waited, my stomach in knots. The reply came 2 days later. It was short and to the point. "I know what you're talking about. Let's meet. I'll explain everything." Attached was an address to a quiet cafe across town. No name, no time. Just the address. The cloak and dagger vibe didn't exactly ease my nerves, but I didn't care. This was the first solid lead I'd gotten, and I wasn't about to ignore it. Anna, of course, was less enthused about the idea. "You're meeting a stranger from the internet to discuss a secret party you're clearly not supposed to know more about," she asked, her tone dripping with disbelief. "You've been watching too many crime dramas." "I'm not going alone," I said. "You're coming with me." Anna groaned but didn't argue. She knew better than to try to talk me out of something once my mind was made up. The cafe was small and unassuming, the kind of place you'd walk past without a second glance. Anna and I grabbed a table near the window and ordered coffee, scanning the room for anyone who might look like they were there to meet us. A woman approached us about 10 minutes later. She was striking, with sharp features and piercing eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She didn't introduce herself, just slid into the seat across from me and folded her hands neatly on the table. "You're brave to dig into this," she said, her voice low but steady. "Or reckless. Depends on how you look at it." I exchanged a glance with Anna, who raised her eyebrows as if to say, "See? This is how people end up in Netflix documentaries." "I just want answers," I said, ignoring Anna's silent commentary. "What happened that night? What's going on with those parties?" The woman leaned back, her expression unreadable. "You're not the first to ask. And you won't be the last." She paused, her eyes narrowing. "What do you know about Marcus?" "Not much," I admitted. "He runs the parties. He seems careful. Like he's managing more than just the guest list." She nodded. "Marcus is meticulous. He has to be, considering what he's dealing with. The people he brings together aren't just there for a good time. There's more at play." "More how?" Anna asked, finally breaking her silence. The woman hesitated, glancing around the cafe as if checking for eavesdroppers. Then she leaned in closer. "Those parties aren't just about mingling. They're experiments in a way. Testing boundaries. pushing limits. Most people leave unscathed. But sometimes she trailed off, her gaze locking onto mine. Sometimes things go wrong. Her words sent a chill down my spine. What do you mean, experiments? She shook her head. It's better if you don't know the details. Just trust me when I say that your experience wasn't random. It was part of the process. I opened my mouth to protest, to demand more, but she cut me off. The fact that you're here means you've already stepped too far into their world. My advice: walk away. Don't dig any deeper. People who do, they don't always like what they find. With that, she stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Consider this your warning, she said before disappearing out the door, leaving Anna and me staring after her in stunned silence. What the hell just happened? Anna whispered, breaking the silence. I have no idea, I said, my mind racing. But one thing's for sure. I'm not walking away. Anna groaned. Of course you're not. Back at home, I replayed the woman's words over and over, each one sinking deeper into my psyche. Experiments, boundaries, process. What did it all mean? And more importantly, what had I stumbled into? I didn't have answers, but I knew one thing. This wasn't over. The conversation with the mysterious woman haunted me. Experiments, boundaries. What exactly had I walked into? Every instinct screamed to let it go, to take her warning and move on with my life. But if you've been following this story, you already know I don't listen to warnings. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I made a decision. If this was some kind of game, I was going to play it on my terms. I grabbed my laptop, opened a blank document, and started jotting down every detail I could remember about that first party, the second one, and everything in between. Faces, conversations, odd moments, it all went into the file. And then I noticed something I hadn't before. The next morning I called Anna. Remember Lucas? The guy from the first party. How could I forget, she replied. He was basically oozing charm. Yeah, well, he's been at every party. And so has Marcus. And, I hesitated. So has one other person. A woman. Anna frowned. Okay, but that's not unusual. It's a small group. People stick to their circles. No, I said, shaking my head. This woman wasn't just there. She was always watching, hovering in the background. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it feels deliberate. Anna sighed. You're going full conspiracy theorist. Maybe. But I'm going to find out who she is. Anna groaned. Fine. What's the plan? By some miracle, social media delivered. A photo from one of the parties showed the woman standing just behind Lucas. Her expression calm but sharp, like she was cataloging the entire room. The caption tagged her. #event coordinator. Her name was Camille. A quick search revealed that Camille worked with Marcus, handling guest lists and logistics for his events. It didn't explain much, but it was a start. I hesitated for a moment before sending her a direct message. Hi Camille, I attended one of your events recently and had some questions about the experience. Would you be open to meeting for coffee? To my surprise, her reply came within the hour. I'll meet you tomorrow. Noon. 123 Cafe on Main. The next day I arrived early. My nerves were shot, and Anna's pep talk over the phone had done little to help. Don't let her intimidate you, she'd said. Remember, you're just here for answers. Easier said than done. Camille arrived precisely on time. Her presence as sharp and calculated as her gaze. She sat across from me without a word, her perfectly manicured hands resting on the table. You wanted to talk, she said, her tone flat but not unfriendly. Yes, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I need to know what's really happening at these parties. Camille tilted her head, studying me like I was an insect under a magnifying glass. Why? Because I ended up in the hospital after one of them, I said bluntly. And the more I dig, the more it feels like that wasn't an accident. She didn't flinch. It wasn't. The words hit me like a slap. What? You weren't harmed intentionally, she clarified. But these events, they're designed to test people. push them beyond their comfort zones. It's why we're selective about who we invite. Most people can handle it. Some, she shrugged. Some can't. I leaned forward, my pulse quickening. Test them how? For what? She hesitated, then leaned in closer, her voice dropping. Marcus runs these events for more than just entertainment. They're experiments in human connection, in how far people are willing to go when the usual rules are stripped away. The guests are carefully chosen based on compatibility, boundaries, and, she paused. Resilience. Resilience. I repeated, my voice shaking. You're saying I was tested for how much I could take. Not in the way you're thinking, she said. But yes, your reactions were observed. We use the information to refine the experience, to make it better for future guests. Felt sick. You're treating people like lab rats. Camille's expression didn't change. No one is forced to participate. Everyone who attends does so willingly. But you don't tell them what they're really signing up for, I shot back. She gave a small, almost pitying smile. Would you have come if you'd known? That shut me up. Back at home, I tried to process what I'd learned. Marcus, Lucas, Camille, they weren't just hosting parties. They were running a psychological experiment disguised as a social event. And I'd been a part of it, without my knowledge or consent. Anna called later that night, her voice cautious. So, what now? Are you going to report them or something? I laughed bitterly. To who? There's nothing illegal about what they're doing. It's manipulative and unethical, but it's not against the law. So that's it. You just let it go. Thought about it. About the nights I'd spent questioning myself, the pain, the confusion. About the people who might walk into those parties next, unaware of what they were truly stepping into. No, I said finally. I'm not letting it go. A week later I posted my story online. Anonymously, of course. I didn't name names or locations, but I laid out everything I'd experienced and what I'd uncovered. I warned people to trust their instincts, to question situations that felt too good, or too strange, to be true. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from people who'd had similar experiences, thanking me for speaking out. It wasn't justice, but it was something. As for me, I'm done with those parties. I've learned the hard way that some boundaries aren't just worth keeping, they're essential. And if there's one thing I'll never ignore again, it's my gut. Because sometimes the cost of curiosity is too high.